Born in Canada, former citizen Conrad Black, British peer, newspaper baron, astute historian, respected thinker, former exemplary prisoner, fearless columnist, and author joins us today. He has written a 10-pound book, A Strategic History of the United States and its Key Actors Who Helped Make America a Superpower. In typical Black fashion, there are new observations and some spicy asides in his weighty book, Flight of the Eagle. Who knew when Harry Truman met Stalin, he referred to him as a little bit of a squirt, and Stalin in turn thought Truman worthless. Stay with us to find out who called Ronald Reagan a cunning old peasant and why Conrad Black is so interested in America's history. It's good to be here with you today and with former newspaper baron, British peer, current newspaper columnist, history heavyweight, soon-to-be TV host Conrad Black. One thing I know for sure, if you want to win the game, do not play Jeopardy with Lord Black. He is especially adept in the American history category. Black has written 2 erudite biographies of U.S. presidents, Richard Nixon and Franklin Roosevelt. His new book focuses on America's leaders with a foreword by Henry Kissinger. It is called Flight of the Eagle, A Strategic History of the United States, a country for which Black has had a long and notorious affection, an affection that could be waning just a bit or not. Welcome. Nice to meet you for the first time.
Well, thank you for having me, Fanny. Glad to be back in Vancouver.
The American eagle, a great and noble bird, the symbol for the United States. Do you consider...
Despite its baldness.
It's true, but then bald is in.
It was not a disadvantage with Eisenhower.
No, true. So, America, still a great and noble nation?
A great nation, certainly. Noble, I wouldn't put too much freight in that wagon, but benign, basically benign, but somewhat shaggy at the edges at the moment. Yeah. And
what is shaggy?
Well, various aspects of American life are just dysfunctional. I mean, the justice system is a disgrace. 99.5% of prosecutions are successful, 97% without a trial. It's not really a justice system. And you know, in a word, the Americans have 5% of the world's population, 25% of their incarcerated people, and 50% of their lawyers. They take 10% of GDP. And there are 48 million Americans with a criminal record. Now, this is just, it's out of control. But the education system isn't competitive, and the healthcare system is very uneven. Parts of it are the best in the world, but a third of Americans, 100 million people, really have somewhat inadequate care.
Did you get a sense of why so many Americans fear socialized medicine, as they call it, or fear Obamacare?
Well, look, they've got a good deal now, the ones who are on public and private plans, because it's a single-payer system. They don't pay anything, and they don't get a tax assessment for a taxable benefit for the medical care they get. Their employer pays, and the employer, whoever it is, private sector employer, gets a tax deduction for handing out the medical care. So basically the public in a way is paying. In that sense it is socialized medicine. But the cost of it is $7,000 per capita for the country compared to $3,000 in Canada, Australia, Britain, Germany, France, Japan. We're countries that have comparable levels of care but more evenly distributed. And the problem is 70% of the people think it's a wonderful system, so it's hard to change things if 70% think it's great.
And then there is that Second Amendment. Eric Idle spoke at Whitman College recently at the commencement ceremony in Walla Walla, Washington, and he said, I know you Americans are a bit sensitive about the Second Amendment, but let me tell you, the Brits are not coming back, so you can take the muskets out of the closet. You don't need so many muskets.
I don't think Madison and Hamilton had in mind 200 million Saturday night specials. And he could also have said that it's unlikely the native people will rise up and try and scalp you. That was part of the rationale in the first place.
It's true. Who tore up treaties in America? Was it Hamilton? Jackson.
So, and when it was deemed to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Marshall, Jackson said the Chief Justice has made his decision, now let him enforce it. In other words, you know, he made an obscene digital gesture to the Supreme Court.
The great characters in this book. Obviously, you have vast knowledge of FDR and Nixon. Is there another president you would choose to write about to that degree?
No, I think this is actually my last word on writing books about American history. As you implied in your very kind intro, my effervescence of spirit towards the country, as is hardly to be wondered at, has waned a little bit. But if I were to do it, I think it would be either Wilson or Roosevelt, or Reagan, I should say. But because Reagan is a very important president who hasn't had a really serious biography, so there's something to be done there. But I don't think I'm the one to do it.
Reagan, certainly full of Trump and warmth. An intelligent man. I read his letters, and you've read his letters, and we know much about him. But always thought of, I think by the general public, and I'm guessing, as a bit of a lightweight.
Well, that was, of course, carefully propagated by his detractors. And, Clark Clifford called him an amiable dunce. Clark Clifford, that some people could address that comment to him without stressing the amiable part of it. But although it wouldn't be fair with him either. But the fact is, he was an extremely effective president. I mean, he won the Cold War. He created 18 million net new jobs. He had tremendous productivity increases in the economy. Reaganomics were very successful. And he was an outstanding president. And he was, in fact, not a lightweight. He was a man who tended to oversimplify things sometimes, but he was very intelligent.
The bloodless war, the Cold War, started when?
Well, really, I guess the Berlin era left, 47.
Okay. And ended under Reagan. Some suggest...
Bush.
Bush, really.
Yeah, but it was really coming down at Reagan, when Reagan left office.
And some suggest it's coming back with the Irans and the Koreas and the Pakistans.
They don't have the ability to threaten the United States the way the Soviet Union did. They're not. I mean, the terrorist sponsoring states are a terrible nuisance, and they could be even more than a nuisance, but they are not, and under no scenario, I think, that is conceivable could they really be a threat to the life and safety of the United States as a whole, the way Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union were. So I don't know. I don't think the Cold War is coming back. I think what the U.S. has to do to get out of its present doldrums is recognize that having seen off the very serious foreign challenges, the challenge it now has, and it does have it, is domestic. There's too much decay in that country. The system's dysfunctional. It's very corrupt. Elections cost too much. They're not getting the best candidates. Nothing ever changes. They throw the incumbents out every few years and bring in new people, and they don't do any better, and they throw them out. Well, that's not how it's supposed to work.
And it costs in America to get elected today something like $1 billion, something horrendous.
$1 billion for each candidate.
Yes.
So you can spend $1 billion and lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you can become a senator in Canada. Just kidding.